Hello aspirants, good morning to you all and I welcome to the next session of One Day One Answer, the daily writing initiative of daily answer writing in world history. So today's topic of world history, we are going to see first the background of world history, that how the history has been formed, and our topic for today is the American Revolution. We will see the concept and context of American Revolution, the causes which caused the revolution in a very brief time span. We'll see that what were the main points of those contentious point which caused the American Revolution, what was the outcome of that American Revolution. Okay, then we'll see the one PYQ question. In that we'll chart out the structure of that question. But first thing, while reading the world history, we must have a conceptual clarity. And for that conceptual clarity, as you can see on the board, that in order to understand the world history and the concept topics which are therein, we need to unravel and understand the events, the various events which happened in the course of time, and what caused those events, why and how approach, why and how it brought the changes into the present and the future. This will help us to frame a broader context to understand the world history, because history is being read from the backward. तो जो background है उसको read करेंगे, history को read करते कैसे, पीछे से लेकर आगे ले जाते हैं, and that process, world history, can be understood and learned through categorizing and compartmentalizing the events into 5 different yet interconnected events. That those events were different in their realm, but they have been certain interconnected theme within that. This is the approach of reading the world history. We have to understand the events, the concept, the topics which were there, what caused that event, and why and how it brought the changes into the present. That means the continuity changes and the historical process has to be understood within the approach of world history. Okay, I hope this point is clear to you. Now coming to the point of 5 different, I told you 5 different but yet interconnected events. We are going to see those events from the 15th century onwards. 15th century, that is 15th AD onwards. Okay. And those events, the first of all, I will talk about the age of discovery and the Renaissance. We all know from the event around 450s, there was a change in the how history has been playing in the world. Before that, there was Islamist revolution in the AD, 76, 8, and 9th century AD. Thereafter, Islam was able to carve out a vast empire. It was having a good territorial expansion. It was having the control over trade and territories. However, on the same point of time, after decline of Roman civilization, there was a fragmentation in Europe into different principalities, and though these principalities are also having the trade relations with one another and with the continental, that is the Asian and Africa. These were the 2 important trading points also, and they were used to pass the trade from the territories which have been now occupied by the Turks and the Muslims and the Islamist revolution ke baad. So they found it difficult to trade into the Asian land, and the continental trade was hampered. The Turkish Constantinople demanded the use taxes. बोला आपको हमसे ट्रेड करना है इस रूट से, हमारे यहाँ पे कब्जा है, आपको टैक्स पे करना पड़ेगा, use taxes. That was not very beneficial for the trading of the Western nation, and that was the event which has prospered the age of discovery. कि discover करो दूसरा route world के trade के लिए. Trading was a very important component, and after that we all know that the imperials power like France, Britain, Portugal and Spain, the initiative was taken by Portugal and Spain, and in the 1454 there was a Treaty of Tordesillas. In this treaty, an imaginary line was drawn on the Atlantic, and whatever the line, whatever territories lying to the west of that line were taken by the Spain, and whatever the territories lying to the east was taken by Portugal. We all know this point. Okay. Now this was an initial initiative which also inspired the other imperial powers, that was the French, English, Dutch, etc. These were also interested into the trade, and we all know for that matter that Portugal, Vasco da Gama, the Columbus, etc., they have sailed to the newer lands, they discovered the newer lands, and thereafter with the newer discovery of trade route, trade was again restarted. The trade helped to create the power, wealth, and it also helped to create the monopoly over the trading relations in those areas. Okay. Then in the 15th century, we all know about the term Renaissance. Renaissance means rebirth. It means rebirth. Rebirth in which sense? Rebirth in the sense of that how the society, polity and economy and the religion itself will be organized in the Western world. It was based on the ancient learning of Greek and Latin. It was a rediscovery of the potentials of West. Why? The reason being, before the Renaissance, the Western Europe, the Western world was ruled by church, and the state was having the good collaboration with church, the religion, to monopolize the things. The order was feudalism, Samantwadi, and feudalism means closed economy. Feudalism means the political arrangements will be in closed nature, not having power with many hands. Okay, the power was limited to a certain hands. That was the nature of feudalism. And this age of discovery, which has given the trade relations good improvement in trade, concentration of trade in few hands. Now there was a new order which has to be established, which will helpful for these trading nations, which will helpful for the imperial powers. And this Renaissance, the rebirth, has brought a new change into the social and political realm. Before the Renaissance, everything was done to appease the state, the church, having monopoly over the power equations. Now after the Renaissance, the main focus was on humanism, that each and every act of yours shall be in resulting into the benefit of human. If the benefit is not going to human, it means that particular act is not good. So that has helped to promote the trade and imperial's power equations. So that is the first event in the world history which has caused the changes into the nature of society and polity and economy, discovery and Renaissance. And after that we know there was imperialism and the result of that colonialism. Imperialism and colonialism. Imperialism basically is called the practice. Imperialism is basically the practice of extending the power, control and rule. There is a power, control and rule of one countries over the areas and the people, exercising those power, control and rule over the areas and the people outside of its border areas. ठीक है, जो लोग उससे बाहर हैं उनके ऊपर भी पॉलिटिकल एंड इकोनॉमिक लाइफ पे उसका कंट्रोल रहेगा. किसका कंट्रोल रहेगा? इंपीरियलिस्ट पावर्स का. दैट इज नोन एज इंपीरियलिज्म. दिस इंपीरियलिज्म इज डन बाय टू वेज. डायरेक्ट इंपीरियलिज्म, दैट वार conquering the territories, and the second one is the natural outcome colonialism, उपनिवेशवाद. That is creating some colonies, expansion of territories will give the new colonies, and those colonies will be serving the economic need of imperial power. Now this economic need will be served towards the imperial power by way of political control. Political control over the territories and the minds of those conquered colonial people will help to prosper the economic relations. That's why the imperialism and colonialism is the next set of events in the world history which was interconnected with Age of Discovery and Renaissance. It has given the wealth through trade, new birth, new thought process, new imperialism power, new power equations. Now imperialism, control, exercising the control over the political and economic life outside its border areas, new territories, and the natural outcome was colonialism. And this colonialism was a responsible factor to bring some changes into the other parts of the world. And we all know that Asia was conquered, along with that Africa was conquered, America was conquered, was a colony, then China was a colony. Four important continents we can see. The countries nowadays were the colonies, and they were serving the need of the imperial power. Okay, these colonies doesn't have any their own independent political status. Their economy was used by the imperial power to serve their needs, and this was the reason we can see that we all know from the Indian history that India has fought against the imperial powers in the modern history. Same goes with Africa, apartheids. Then America, the topic for today, the American Revolution was an important factor. Then the Chinese revolutions. They have also got independence from the imperial powers. This was an important event in the world history which has created the path for the next set of events to unravel. Next was Industrial Revolution. Starting point of 18th century. Imperials have supported this revolution based on the scientific discoveries. The Industrial Revolution has came. Revolution in industry, how the things were manufactured. Before that Industrial Revolution, handmade goods, the production was slower. But after the Industrial Revolution, the scale and extent of production was very much higher. Now, in order to sustain that Industrial Revolution, what they need, because the Industrial Revolution was supported by imperial powers, that is the obvious fact. And now what they need? The territories. The territories for the reason of exploiting the raw materials to be used in industries. Now in the Industrial Revolution, one very important fact is that in those areas of Industrial Revolution, they focused on the cheap labor. They were not paying those labor well and high in those areas where the Industrial Revolution has initially prospered. So if you are not paying well to the laborers, it will create less demand because paisa nahi hai unke haath mein. So what you need? A new market where you can sell your products. And that's why you can see the term colonialism will be very important here. The colonies serve as two-way. One as the market of products, and second was the raw materials were used to be went into the industrial revolutions of imperial powers. And the lead was taken by British. It was having good resources, availability of cheap labor, etc. And even in the colonies which it has acquired, the labor was easily available. The production method was great. Now, second point of industrial revolution which has changed the course of history was that why some countries across the world will buy your products. Because they have their own product system, they have their own economic system. Why they will buy yours? Two things are important. Because of the control, political control, economic control, and second one was that you will destroy the industries of those natives, those colonial governments, those territories where which we have the extension of your imperial power. So that's why if you see the interconnectedness between the imperialism, colonialism, and industrial revolution, you will get most of the story of the world history. And we all know, for example, the deindustrialization in the modern history of India. Indian industries were destroyed, Chinese industry was destroyed, and the market was created for the industrial products of imperial powers, imperial countries. So all these things were going hand in hand. The next set of important event was the coming up of the capitalism, because these industries were planted by capitalist class. Now they were getting the profit. Now they have to see for the ways to multiply their profit, and the obvious destination was the colonies. They will invest in those colonies and then they will get the most of the profit. This was the pure exploitation, of course, and this was one of the important event in the world history. All these things are interconnected, and it will have a direct relation with the American Revolution also. I will explain just right now. Then after an industrial revolution, we can see that in the history of world, there was an age of enlightenment, wisdom. And this enlightenment means the realization of the inherent potentials of man. Thomas Paine, Jefferson, Montesquieu, John Adams, these were thinkers who gave the idea that man is free, who gave the idea of political freedom, who gave the idea of universal declaration of rights, the liberty, etc., the mode of the government, the nature of the government to serve people. These were the ideas, and that was the age of enlightenment. And this enlightenment has helped to create the revolutions and reorganization into the world. This has created the revolution and reorganization in the world, which has gave up the new world order. The time period, very important, 18th century was a time when there were new world order revolutions. Now the concept of revolution. What is revolution? What is revolution? Revolution basically means that it is a fundamental, if in the revolution, it means that if you witness the fundamental change, at times abrupt, at times slower, the fundamental change in the entire political system, that is the nature of polity or the government, in the class or classes who are having the political power, who hold the political power, and the changes in the aims of the government. कि मतलब before the revolution and after the revolution. So revolution means that post the revolution you have the fundamental change in the nature of the political system which is holding the power, and that change in terms of the nature of government, the class or classes of people who are holding the power, and the aims of the government. The aims of the government will be seeing the drastic change. It will be more people friendly, it will be more organized, it will be more focusing on the rights, focusing on the human values, economic prosperity, etc. This was a revolution. So whenever you see the revolution, it means the fundamental change. Now apply these theories to the all revolution of the world. Even the industrial revolution will have this fundamental change in how the goods were produced, what was the aims of those capitalist class, etc. So those revolutions have prospered the reorganization, and in that context we'll see that the revolution of American Revolution. Okay, before that, just an explain the international rivalries and post 1990s new world order. After the revolution and reorganizations, the revolution has created a ripple impact. The revolution in America and France thereafter, and thereafter the post the revolution of France, there was the revolution in the Europe in 1830s and 40s to change the system of government, to bring the new order. Then there was the reorganization in Italy and Germany, the reorganization of boundaries into a single unit, the growth of nationalism, and this has created a new world order with international rivalries. The colonial system was continued based on the industrial revolution. Now you have the international rivalries कि किसके पास ज़्यादा colonies हैं. Arms race was there, that has caused the World War. After the World War, there was a Cold War between two powers, USA and USSR, and post 1990s, the Cold War ended and new world order. We can see the US is the hegemon now. This is the story of world history. This is the approach of world history. We can divide into 5 different but interconnected events. Now coming back to the idea of revolution. If we see the term revolution, as I told you, a fundamental change into the nature of polity, system of government, the classes who were holding the power, and the nature and aim of the government. Okay. So in that context, see the PYQ here. The PYQ was based on the American and French Revolution, the idea of revolution and how it has laid the foundation of modern world. Asked in 2019, the question is, explain how the foundation of the modern world was led by American and French Revolution. The things I have explained you shall be on background. So within that realm, we can see the concept of American Revolution. Background of imperialism will go, and the colonialism. So in 1600, after the discovery of America, the land of America was very fertile. In the northern and southern part of America, you will see that there were huge potential of plantations, and the imperial power used to establish their colonies. 1606, they were first colony of America, and thereafter almost 13 colonies have been established in the American land, in the northern and southern. In the northern and southern America, there were good number of ports from which the trading was continued. Okay. The colonial power through control over political and economic life, obvious fact, if you deduct from the imperialism, colonialism, the control over political and economic life of those colonies. Now the question is, what were those colonies? Those colonies were basically created for plantations, the raw materials, trade, etc. And the people living in those colonies were the persecuted religious freedom fighters, the religious persons, the traders, the agriculturist class, the big landlord, and the plantation workers were the people living in those colonies. In those colonies, the British also had established some their local councils, local legislative councils, which were working as the factor. They were working as not as a factor but as a local government. they were unable to take the decision on their own, but overall there was a control of British through a governor who used to oversee the affairs of those colonies, and into that realm the control of political and economic life. The exploitation was felt by Americas. So what happened? British was an imperial power. It was engaged in the colonialism and it was engaged in the expansion of territories. And we all know for that fact, in the modern history of India, we read about the 7 Years' War in the Austria and the Anglo-French War. So these wars were draining the British out of their revenues. It was a financial burden for British. So now they thought to get the backup from the revenues which they will charge on the colony of America, because they said, British said that the colonies were serving the need of the empire, the metropolis, the mother country, and so thus they had to give the revenue, and this was known as the stamp tax. 1770s में stamp tax लाया गया. Stamp tax means whatever the business transaction are being done in America, they have to be made through a stamping of that legal documents, and when you stamp those legal documents, you have to pay a $20 as a stamp duty. This was opposed by colonial people, that why you are taxing us without any, we don't have the such representation into the economic life. Even in the British has asked the America, the colony, to trade only in British ships, to not trade with other country without the permission of British. The ports were under the control of British, so the economic freedom was absent, and in that matter the taxation was a very big issue, that we are not having any kind of representation in the political system, so we can take decision in our own, and now you are taxing us. There was an exploitation. Then there was an enlightenment. Thomas Paine and Jefferson, they were the enlightened people. And they call that an island nation cannot govern a continent like America, and this was the feature which has governed the American Revolution. So the stamp duty tax, and there was a convention and conferences, Philadelphia Conference, very famous one, in which the American people have reorganized themselves and asked to withdraw the stamp tax. British has came up with the new law that the right of taxation is with the British, but we are withdrawing the stamp tax. Then they have permitted the gross import from the ports of America of tea. This was again opposed, and this was known as when it was opposed heavily by dropping the box into the sea, known as the Boston Tea Party. And thereafter there was a war of independence, in which we know about that Americas have fought against the British power. The famous name is George Washington, who fought with the Lord Cornwallis. This was the factual information you will get from the books. And after that, there was an impact of revolution, that it has created a new systematic development into the world history. Revolution, change, the fundamental change in the nature of polity, the nature of government, and the aims of the government. That is all with regard to the American Revolution as a conceptual understanding. Now coming back to the question, if you understand this point, that what was as we have to explain the foundation, how the foundations of the modern world were laid by the American and the French Revolution, we have to know this fact that as a conceptual understanding, we saw the Americas. So the impact of revolution has to be felt. Impact of revolution. ठीक है, Americas में. Then after the American Revolution, there was a French Revolution based on the demand of abandoning the monarchical government, getting the Bill of Rights, the rights of men, reorganization of the political theory, reorganization of the political affairs, participation of the common people of France. So of course the revolution was traveling throughout the world. It has inspired the revolutionary ideas. So in that realm, we have to explain this various aspects of French and American Revolution. You can introduce with the impact of revolution, the significance of revolution in the world, how it changed the world order. Then separately you can go with the American Revolution and the impact of the French Revolution. In terms of the American Revolution, it was the starting point of the revolutionary ideas. Then of course the Bill of Rights was an important factor. Bill of Rights explaining the rights of men and women. Then we all know, for example, there was a systematic arrangement of constitutional development in America, the first written constitution. Then there was a federal system. Then the most important part, that the government was made more representative. The idea of self-government has came, self-sustaining government has came, representative government. The power of the government will come from people. Government by the people, for the people, from the people. Idea came from the impact of industrial American Revolution. Similarly with the French Revolution, we understand that it has ended the monarchical system. Not literally ended, but it has caused the new sense that monarchy has to be replaced. Monarchy has to be replaced. The power came with the National Assembly in the French. And of course, the Declaration of Rights of Men and Women. Okay. Various impact of those French and American Revolution, and this revolution has brought a new trend which we can see into the Europe in 1830s. You will see the next set of revolutions to change the nature of the government. Then in the Italy and Germany, the rise of nationalism, then the boundaries of in the Italy and Germany were reorganized, and that was the reorganization of Italy and Germany. That was helpful, and that has helped to create the industrial base for these countries. So there was a rise of new powers, new trend was coming into the world. There was the impact of revolution. The foundation of the modern world were led by the American and the French revolutions. Very important fact to understand the various aspects of the world history. So in the nutshell, we can understand this point, that the spread of the democratic ideals, human rights, individual liberties, inspiration for national liberation movement in India, China, etc., in the Europe itself. Then we have, in terms of the French Revolution, spread of democratic ideals, end of the absolute monarchy, the rise of constitutional methods to govern, the social and economic reforms, that economy has to be based on the equality, economic injustice will not be tolerated, and the rights of the worker, the rise of new philosophy like socialism and communism has taken the birth. So this was the foundations of the modern world, the modern ideas in nature of economy, the organization of economy and the polity. I hope this point is clear to you. So how we have to approach the world history, the concept behind imperialism, revolutions, how it has created a new world order, what were the factors behind those revolutions, causes behind the American Revolution, because colony were becoming more enlightened, it were becoming more aware in terms of their rights, and the obvious impact of the American Revolution was on the French, because in the next decade, the French Revolution was there, replacing the monarchy, the end of the absolute monarchical system. The talk of economic reforms were there. So basic idea behind all these revolutions were creating a ripple effect into the world, and it has led the foundation of the modern world. In the pinned section of the comment, the first pinned comment, you will see a practice question for today. You write the answers. It is on the question is on the mercantilism and the American Revolution, the obvious relation between that. If some of you are not aware, please read that section from the books. We'll meet in the evening. I will evaluate your copy and see your answers. Okay. I hope the point is clear to you. You got the concept and the approach for understanding the world history. Thank you very much. Take care.